as she introduced, I am a professional organizer, and I work with a lot of people in their homes, but a majority of the people that I work with also have home offices. And all this information that we have in paper and electronic form, it's really hard for people to deal with. So I'm going to start off by asking you guys, how many of you left for this conference today with piles of paper or other things sitting around your home or your home office? So there's a lot of information that we need to keep up with. We've got paper, we've got our devices, we've got electronic information, and all of that, when you're running around from place to place, can be really overwhelming. If you don't have good systems in place to keep up with that information, things can get lost and buried under other things, and you lose things, and you also can have missed opportunities because you're spending so much time looking for things, and you might not be aware of something that's happening, and then you have a missed opportunity. Now, I've been doing this for close to 20 years, and what I see with the majority of my clients and why they have this clutter is that it's the result of only one thing, and that's postponed decisions. Why is there mail piling up in your home? Why is it all over the table? Because you haven't made the time to go through it, or you haven't made a decision about what you're going to do with it. Same thing with your email. Why are there over 500 or 1,000 messages sitting in your inbox? Because you haven't made a decision about whether you're going to delete those messages, whether you're going to respond to them, whether you're going to file them. And then you've got your desk paperwork. Same thing. Things are piling up because you haven't made a decision about what you're going to do with something, or you haven't made the time to go through with it. So that's why the clutter is there. It's a result of postponed decisions. So does anyone want to share any of their sort of clutter challenges in terms of postponing decisions?
Yeah. Email. Yeah.
So, so is it the fact that you're not dealing with the email? It's your inbox is clogged and you haven't gotten to it, or you don't know where to put it? Okay. To deal with email. Okay. That's very true. Go ahead. Okay, so the structure of your email. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get to that. Okay. All right, well, that, as you can see, so you see, like, we delay this stuff and then we don't deal with it. So what starts off as a small problem, and as you know, when you first start an email, it was somewhat manageable, but now it's like a huge explosion and it's really hard to deal with, and you're not alone in that fact. So in fact, in the business world, there's a statistic that shows that there was an Office Depot survey done that shows that a third of all business people lose more than 15 minutes a day or 2 hours every week hunting for lost papers, sorting through messy files, and rebooking missed appointments. So that's a lot of lost time. And now in this job search mode, you've got the stuff that you need to deal with in your personal life, as well as managing all the information around searching for a job. So how do you deal with that? Well, your goal is you want to create some kind of productive environment. And a productive environment is defined as an intentional setting in which you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. It's the setting where you are your most efficient self. So within that setting, your ability to accomplish any task or goal is directly related to your ability to find what you need when you need it. And that includes email messages, papers, things like that. So I'm going to first talk about what are called the Magic 6 tools for creating a productive environment. So here's the Magic 6. You've got collection tools, you've got wastebasket, recycle, shredding, calendar, contact management system, action, and reference files. And I'm going to cover these each in detail. So let's talk about collection tools. So most of you have an email inbox. That's a given collection tool. But what I see in my experience when I come into people's offices is they really don't have one place for their paper to land. So it lands, you bring something back and you say, oh, I'm just going to put it here because I need to deal with this. And you say, oh, I'm going to put this there because I need to deal with it. Or you come back from a networking event and you've got tons of business cards and you just sort of put them down and say, I'll deal with this later. Well, when you need one place to collect all that stuff so that you can then go through it in a timely manner. This inbox is not meant to be a filing cabinet. It's not a place for things where things go to die. It's meant to be a stopping point where you can put your information and then deal with it when you're ready. Now, in the email world, in the virtual world, same thing is true. Yes, your inbox is a place for you to collect emails, but you then need to have a process around processing them and getting through them, responding to them, filing them away, deleting them, whatever. But these collection tools are just one port of entry, and then you need a process or a procedure to move forward. And I'm going to talk about what the process looks like for not making these things just filing cabinets in place where things go to die. But suffice it to say, you need a system for having anything that you bring back into your office or that comes into your virtual world, and then deal with it at a later time. Okay, the next Magic 6 tool is having a place to eliminate clutter in your home office. These are pretty obvious: having a recycle bin, having a place to put shredding. We have a lot of confidential information. If you have a home shredder, great. If you're collecting a lot of confidential information, there's now lots of places that you can take your confidential information. Office Depot, you can drop off a bag there and take it for shredding rather than just trying to sit there with your home shredder doing like hundreds of pieces of paper, and it can take a really long time. That's another solution. And then just having a trash can. Okay, so calendar and to-do lists. So how many of you keep an electronic calendar? Okay, are some people on paper? Is anyone still on paper? Okay, it's not a bad answer. It's not a bad answer, because there really is not a right or wrong answer. Some people really like being able to write things down and being able to remember. It just helps them, and just they can see it. But a lot has changed in terms of the world of electronic and calendars. So there's a lot of things. The things that I always stress to people: if you have something that's paper-based, you want to make sure that it's portable and that it's with you at all times. That's the biggest thing. People who live with paper calendars, it's not always with them, and it's not as easy to plan your time. When you have an electronic calendar, for most people, it should be synced to your phone or with you at all times, and you can then put in your appointments and where you need to be. So how is your calendar going to help you? Well, your calendar helps you in terms of your hard appointments. It tells you where you need to be and when. I worked with a woman once who was complaining about how her biggest issue was that she never had enough time. And so we were looking at her calendar, and I was coaching her via screen sharing, and I'm looking at this, and all I see is like white space. I mean, there's a few appointments here and there, but it's a lot of white space. And I said, you're complaining that you can't get things done, but what is really happening? Well, what was happening was she wasn't entering all of her meetings into her calendar. She wasn't entering all of her hard appointments. And so, and also she was using the default setting for all of her meetings, so everything was going in as 1 hour when a lot of her meetings were like 2 hours or 3 hours, and they were taking up a lot of her day. So she couldn't plan her time in any way, shape, or form, because she didn't really know where those white spaces were that she could block out the things that she needed to get done. So in conjunction with your calendar, then, you need to have a task list. And before I move to that, I'm just going to ask any of you, are you guys all portable electronic calendars, Google Calendar, iCal, things like that? Does anyone have a favorite app or anything that they use in conjunction with that really helps them in terms of managing their time? Yes? Is it sort of a way for people to book time with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. There's a couple other apps like that as well. I think it's Doodle is another one, and there's a couple other ones. Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Okay. So I will tell you in terms of my own personal management. So when I switched whatever number of years ago from a paper calendar to an electronic calendar, I went to Google Calendar, and I had no problem with using Google Calendar on my computer. The display was big. I could look at a month or a week or whatever. But when it came to my phone, it was really hard for me to plan out a week or whatever. So I then found an app called Calendgoo that syncs with my Google Calendar and allows me to see a week or a month in a much better way. So I felt more comfortable using my electronic calendar and getting off that big paper-based calendar. I really could plan my time a lot better. I think it's called Calendgoo, Calengoo. My biggest issue with my iPhone calendar was just that it was really hard for me to scroll through or see, even when I turned it in landscape mode, to be able to see how I wanted to plan my time. And so some of it is getting the tools that work for you, and then you can get these systems to work for you. So in terms of to-do lists and calendars, so your calendar is going to give you those hard appointments and the things where you need to be and when. But now with your to-do list, you need to be there's lots of things that you need to get done and how you're going to take care of them. What I see a lot of people doing is they grab the random notepad or random scraps of paper, and they're like, oh, I need to do this, and they put it there. Or the other thing they do is they keep a lot of information in their head. So if you're keeping a lot of information in your head, it's really unproductive. You spend so much time thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. So like here you'll be typing an email or working on something you really need to focus on. And while you're doing it, your mind starts wandering. You're like, oh, I've got to remember to email this person, or I've got to plan my son's birthday party this weekend, or I've got to call the gardener about the broken sprinkler. So having a to-do list versus just these random scraps of paper or trying to keep things in your head is really important in terms of your productivity. And then using that in conjunction with your calendar so you can look at, okay, here's all the things that I need to get done. I've now put everything in one place, whether it's an app, which I can show you some of the ones that I suggest, or you can use some kind of planner in some color or style that you love and you carry it with you wherever you go. That way all of your to-do items are in one place, and then you can look at your calendar and say, where are those pockets of time where I have an hour, and what are some of the things on my list that I can get done in that hour? The other thing that I recommend in terms of, and these apps can do a lot of this for you. I used to recommend to do apps, but I sort of stopped because there's literally like hundreds of them. And so it's really just a question of what works for you, what interface you like. So this is a screenshot of Wunderlist. AnyDo is a really like simple format, a white background. Like there's just different formats, and how you respond to them, what resonates with one person might be completely different than all of them are available on Android or iOS devices. So it's really just about what you put in there and what you're comfortable looking at in terms of a screen. Most of them have reminders, most of them have a way to put things in terms of context organization, which is what I tend to recommend. For any of you who are familiar with David Allen and getting things done, that's a lot of, putting your tasks in a batch way. So you put your list together of calls to make, errands you need to run, things that you can only do when you're home, things that you can only do in your office. That's not an app, that's just a behavior of how you batch your tasks. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, does anyone, what apps have been successful for you guys in terms of what task management are people using that they've really liked? Does anyone want to share? Is that electronic? Okay. Okay, that's a really good thing to do. And the other thing I often tell people too is that when you're looking at where to slot in those things that you want to get done, I mean, people think that they can get so much more done than they can. And so if you set yourself up with like 3 to 5 things, like these are the 3 to 5 things that I'm going to slot in for today, you're going to be much more successful than if you say, I'm going to, I can do all these 10 things, and then it's the end of the day and you've gotten 2 things done. So really trying to be a little not biting off more than you can chew, and then feeling at the end of the day like you didn't get anything done. Does any other apps that people really like? Okay. So the next part of this is having a good contact management system. So in job search mode, as you guys know, the people that you meet are really, really important to you. You never know where that next lead is going to come from. You never know where that next person that you meet could be your lead for your next job. So what I see in the people that I work is their contact management system often consists of either, again, business cards sort of strewn about their desk, shoved in a plastic bag somewhere. They have some contacts on their phone. They have some contacts in their email. But there's sort of not one place where they keep track of all the people that they really want to be in contact with. So I encourage you to either use your email and the addresses in there and have it syncing to your phone, or making sure that all those people are in your address book in your phone. All the information, including things like, where did I meet this person? What did we talk about? So that when you meet them again, you have something sort of in common with them. I mean, in the work world, that's more of like a CRM tool, customer relations tool, things like that. But in terms of your own personal management, you can mimic that same thing. I use Outlook, and in the notes of Outlook, I put lots of things about when someone contacts me, what their issue is, what we talked about when they contacted me. So you can do a lot of it that way. Any questions there? Comments? What is it called? Okay. And it's an app. Okay. Yes, did you want to say something? Yeah, you can put a lot of information in there and sync it to your phone, and you know that you're consistent across all of your devices, so you have everything that you need. I mean, we're just such a portable society, and if something's on your computer at home, it's just really of no value to you. Another thing people often do a lot of times is like the way that they find something is they go searching through an email to find that person's contact information. Also not a great use. So getting that information out of the email and into your contact management. Okay, so those are the first four tools that I'm going to talk about. And these last two really relate to the paper part of this. So management of this paper and this process, as I talked about processing your inbox, it can be really overwhelming. But basically when it comes to paper, there's really only three choices that you can make. You can file it, you can act on it, or you can get rid of it. Now that sounds simple enough, but 80% of what most people file away is never looked at again. And on top of that, people have a hard time getting rid of things for fear they might need it again. So I'm going to go backwards from this file act off and talk to you about how do you make decisions about what you can get rid of. There's something called the art of wastebasketry that teaches you, 6 questions you can ask about the information that you want to hold on to. Should I keep it or should I get rid of it? So the first is, does something require action? If something requires you to act on it, okay, so do you still need the piece of paper to act on it? If you don't need the piece of paper to act on that particular item, then don't save the paper. Put that information on a task list or in your to-do thing and get rid of the paper. If you really do need to keep that piece of paper to complete the action, then you can put it into a folder called Action Support, but you should still write whatever you need to do for that particular task on your task list so you can remember it. The paper's not serving as a reminder. The next question is it recent enough to be useful? A lot of information that we receive today becomes quickly outdated. So you could there's articles on social media or the latest tech toy, things on the economy. If you're researching a company and some of the information that you have is just really old and outdated, do you really need to save it? Or it was a company maybe you were looking at a couple months ago and now you're like not really interested in them, so do you need to save it? Can you get rid of it? Could you get that information again? So a lot of information that we have in paper form is available on the internet or maybe in some book that's gathering dust on your shelf. When we have a particular, when you're in job search mode or if you have a business and you're marketing, you get lots of books on these topics. And a lot of that information is there. And so do you need to save that one particular piece of paper that you printed out on that same information when you can find it in a book or on the internet? Are there tax or legal implications to what you're saving? This primarily applies to personal information, but the general adage I say is that you only need to keep your tax information for 7 years. So if you have stuff that's older than that, you can get rid of it. You need to keep information around assets for the life of the asset. And then, does it have a specific use? So if you have something that you pick up off your printer or from your filing cabinet and you're like, oh, I want to file this, but I don't know where to put it, and you start to name it miscellaneous, it's not really going to help you find it when you need it. That's a title that you should never, ever have called on a folder, because when you go to find it, you will never remember where you put it. So if you can't remember what to call something, or if you can't think of what you're going to call something when you start to file it away, just get rid of it, because you won't remember. And then what's the worst case scenario if you didn't have this information? What would you do if I didn't have this? It's okay. I can find it somewhere else. I can go searching for it. It's just not that important for me to take the time to file it away and hang on to it. Does that? Yes?
One of the best bits of advice I would have in this area is they write you a check.
Okay, good to hear. Anyone else want to share any things of getting rid of stuff? Okay, so on the action side, if there's something that you actually really, I'm going through file act off, so now on the action side, if there's something that you really need to keep and you want to hold on to it, so I need to do something with this and I need this piece of paper to complete this task, you can create, like I said, an action support folder or create a project file. So like if you're interviewing at a particular company or you're talking to resume people and you have lots of samples or something like that, you really need the paper, then create a project file around it. And this little thing right there is called an inclined sorter. And that's what I typically recommend with my clients that they use for their current projects. It can just sit on the corner of your desk, holds all your current stuff, and that's where it should go. And then when the project is done, I'm not interviewing with that company anymore, I've taken care of that project, you take it out and you either get rid of the paper or you file it in the next thing, which is called your reference file. Now this is your actual file cabinet. This is where the things that you really want to keep will go. So that question around keeping everything just in case or whatever, this is stuff that you actually think that you might use again, and it didn't fall under any of the art of waste basketry questions. So what I tell people in terms of creating their file systems, so they're not in that 80% of what you file away is never looked at again, is keeping your file system as simple as possible. And in this day and age, what you need for filing paperwork is really small. I mean, there's just not a lot of information you still need in paper form. So keep it simple. For just a general adage I give to most of my personal clients is really all of your personal information, like the stuff you keep, probably could fit in one drawer of what you need to keep. And yet people still have 4-drawer and more than that cabinets in their home offices. So your reference file should be simple. You should, in how you name your files, try to be consistent across all your mediums. So if you call something car in the physical world, then when you go to your documents in the virtual world or in your email system, you should name that folder car across all mediums and not car here and Honda there and vehicle there, because it gets really confusing. So try to be really consistent in how you name your folders. And then also, I'm a big believer in just straight alphabetical filing, just keeping it simple. When people start to break down things into categories, they get confused, they don't know where things are, and it just gets really confusing. So just keeping it simple and just with going straight alpha filing.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm. Right. But that's still a part of your work. So I mean, if you're whatever you need to keep for your particular field.
So I have those organized by categories, kind of like the one on my day on my computer. I wouldn't put them alphabetically like this client and then
Oh, I see what you're saying.
seminar.
So,
Except don't categorize.
well, to answer your question, like your vendors, I mean, same idea, like your vendors would be straight A to Z, would not be mixed in with, to your point, your training materials.
Okay.
So in that case, from your work, that's a different drawers, different sections, things like that. Anything else before I move on to the electronic world? Okay, so if you really, really want to cut down on how you manage, paper that you're dealing with, and really getting away from what I see a lot of people doing is they just pick up piles and move them from place to place and they don't really deal with them. So you really need to, first of all, not get the paper to come in to begin with. So that might mean, again, on a personal level, if you're dealing with home office, getting off as many lists as you can, getting your bills and stuff converted to electronic format, just not even having the paper come in at all. Then, if you really want to be less paper-based in your life, you would invest in a good scanner. Now, the Fujitsu ScanSnap, I have representations of 2 different models. That is my preferred, and a lot of people who have gone less paper-based, that is their preferred scanner. It's really a great product. Now, it's not inexpensive, but it's a great investment. You can take a huge stack, put it in there, and in like seconds, it can scan all this paper front and back and then create a PDF of it that you can then do with file where you choose. Same things, business cards, photos, all of it takes different size papers and things like that. I haven't had personal experience with Doxigo, but that's another one that I found that's sort of a little bit different price point if you want another representation of one. But if you're really trying to be less paper-based, you've got to invest in a good scanner. Your all-in-one fax, print, scan it's just too hard. It just takes too long. You're not going to do it. So this is what I recommend for going less paper-based. With that said, if you're going to be less paper-based, you now need to invest in more storage. Now you can store on your computer itself, but again, if you go to something like the cloud, your documents are going to be available wherever you go, and they're going to be backed up. So that's probably a better solution for a lot of the things that you're keeping in electronic format. Are you guys pretty much all familiar with these modes? Are most people primarily Dropbox? Dropbox. Yeah. That's what I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover, that's the last part of this, is covering Evernote, because it's a great product for managing information. That was a great segue. Does anyone else have any other comments on cloud-based solutions that they've found for getting their information into the cloud? Okay. And so it's just a cloud-based, and does it cost? Okay. OneDrive is what she mentioned. And some of these, a lot of them have a certain amount of storage for free, and then as you go up, you pay. So thank you for mentioning Evernote. I am a huge Evernote user, and I think it is really a great tool for managing information of any kind. How many of you have heard of Evernote before? Most of you here? Okay, so what Evernote is, it's a way for you to remember anything that you want to. You can get, it's available on all platforms, your computer, on the web, on your phone, all of those places, and they all sync very instantaneously. You can clip things from the web, whether you're on a device, they have a little thing called a web clipper that takes a web page, and I'm going to show you examples of ones that I've done here, and put it into Evernote, and then it's with you, and it has a great search function. So you could put in a picture of something. Let's say you're out and about and you're like, oh, I really love Coke Zero. That's like the best product ever. And you take a picture of the Coke Zero can and then you search on the word zero, it'll find the text within the graphic. So there's lots of great uses for it for text information as well as things that you scan in. So this is an example. It's sort of hard to read, but these are, when you get Evernote out of the box, it's just like a blank slate. They set you up with one notebook, and then it's up to you how you want to use the product. That's overwhelming for people because they sort of don't know what to do with it. So I started off, and I like using notebooks. So imagine your notebooks are like the filing drawer of your life. So I have an inbox where the things go to land until I have a chance to deal with them. And then I have articles, different things I've clipped from the web related to my industry. I also had to plan I have a boy and a girl. I had to plan their bar and bat mitzvahs and everything I was collecting. There was lots of ideas, lists I needed to keep track of. All of that went into Evernote, and it was a great place for doing project planning. Other things, I have my client information. I can share information. I have a shared client notebook with one of my clients. All the projects that we're working on, what's the status. I had to go take pictures of something. Here's what it looks like now. Here's what I plan to do, and then show them the after. So there's lots of great uses. So you start off with these notebooks, okay, but how do you get notes into them? So here's an example of something. This was an email that I got. It was a light that I had ordered and I needed to return it. So they send me the email. Okay, here's your RGA number, here's where you need to mail it, etc. So now I go to the shipping store to ship it back, and because this is an Evernote, I have the address of where I need to send it, I have all the information I need, and then I can now say, okay, so now I'm waiting on this refund. So it's sitting in Evernote. I don't have to keep scrolling through my emails to find that one email or searching, because I've actually ordered multiple lights from Y Lighting and I don't want to have to search for the one that I returned. So I can now go in and find that one thing that I'm looking for by having it in Evernote. So that's one way. I happen to use Outlook, and there's a particular button. If I have an email, I just click on this little elephant symbol in my Outlook and it converts that directly to a note in Evernote. You can, same thing with any of the browsers that you use. If you're using Gmail online or on the web, same thing. It has a clipper and you clip that email and it just goes directly into Evernote. Here's another example just of an article that was, again, related to my field. I want to refer back to it, so I have this article. I don't have to remember, like, where did I read that? Or I don't know what to do with this. I want to read it later. I might be interested in it, but I'm not really sure. Now I have it, and if I feel like going in or if I'm looking for an idea for one of my newsletters, I have this article. Okay, here's another example. So I'll tell you, I'm looking to take my daughter to the East Coast to look at schools. So I was mapping on Google where these different places were and plotting out routes to go and things like that. And I wanted to know how far apart they were and when could I schedule our tour times. So not only could I capture the picture of the route by using Google Maps, but then also within Evernote, I was able to add the annotations that tell the mileage, like 8.8 miles, blah, blah, blah. All of that was done through Evernote because you can annotate a picture. So you can add in, any comments that you want to on a picture. And again, it just, not only are you capturing the picture, but your own comments on that picture itself. So you can take a picture. This is only available with the premium. The difference between the free and the premium, first of all, is the amount that you can upload into. So if you're uploading a lot of pictures and things like that, in a month it limits you. And then when you take pictures of things, you can take it as a picture of a Post-it note, a document, a photo, or a business card. So the business card feature is only available to premium users, and premium is $45 a year. It's not that expensive. You're talking about to find text within graphics? Yeah. Yes. Right. You can, it finds text within documents. Yeah, but not within just the graphics. So this was, so I took a picture of my business card, and the other thing is they connect with LinkedIn. So once it captured my business card, it put it in, this is the contact form within Evernote. So you could create all your stuff in Evernote, but you can also then link that contact, like I could then say upload to my contacts within my phone or whatever I'm using, and it'll upload just like the contact card right there. So it, again, like when you're meeting a lot of people, rather than coming back and trying to enter all that, I mean, you can use this card scanner and things like that, but it's just it just really can just easily take a picture with your phone. And I'm just finding more and more with my clients, like they're just doing so much on their phones because it's always with them. It's really easy to just take a picture and do what you need with it. So it's great for that. Within Evernote. Correct. And right, that you can either leave in Evernote or you can integrate it into your contacts. And you can do it you can have it do it automatically for every single one, or you can choose to do it only the ones that you want to do. So this last one that I wanted to show you an example of is like I had a meeting to go to, and so I had the email of telling me where I needed to go. I've got the agenda as attachments and all of that I can open up from within Evernote. So everything was in one place. So like, again, you don't have to take things with you or be scrolling through where do I need to be and what do I need to have with me from your email system. Everything's right there. So I had everything I needed for this meeting. I just opened it up. And like when I go to meetings now, I barely bring a piece of paper. I mean, I just have everything, or like they handed out the roster of the committee members. I took a picture of it. I put it into Evernote. It's in that section of whatever notebook that I'm putting in. So I use it for a lot to just have a lot less paper and to manage of information and getting out of my email inbox. Because as I said before, I mean, your inbox, any kind of inbox you have, it's not supposed to be a filing cabinet. It's a place where you go in, you do what you need to do, and you get out. Does anyone else have any other comments about Evernote and how they use it, or questions about how it can help them particularly? Okay. Well, I'm just going to cover a few more things, and then I'm going to talk about the handout that I put in front of you. So this is me. I am a professional organizer and productivity specialist. I specialize in these different kinds of things. Physical organization, everything in your home, from your home office is my specialty, and paper and things like that. But I also do things, I do garages, closets, kitchens, all of that. And I'm based here in Palo Alto. So that's me. And then I'm available in all these places if you want more tips and ideas, in Facebook, Twitter, all of that kind of stuff. But for you guys, what I'm offering, so the handout that went around is called a Productive Environment Scorecard. So I encourage you guys to fill it out. And then it's a great self-assessment tool. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. And then if you are interested, it's just it can be a self-assessment tool, or if you are interested in a half-hour complimentary consultation where you can go over the results in more specific details with me, you can contact me, you can hand it in to me, and we can go through it together. And I can sort of give you pointers on how you can be more productive in your environment. If you can just take turns off reading off the questions, and I sort of want to start a little conversation around why these things are important, or how I would, why it's important in the scoring. So I don't have a handout in front of me, so I'm going to ask someone to read the first question. Okay, so general adage on all of this stuff is if you rate yourself a 3 or below, then that's where you're looking for trouble. That's the answer to that is what's order they're in. Does that give you a lower score?
Yes.
Okay, right. So if a 3 or below, you sort of maybe need to look at how you can handle your papers differently using some of the Magic 6 tools. Are you keeping too much? Do you have a system for processing the paperwork that comes into your world? That kind of thing. Yes? Is this only in your personal or work world as well? Like
Anywhere.
Okay.
So I have that visual memory, I guess, so I can really find the stuff right away.
So the only
other people cannot find it.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. So the only issue with that, if you share your home or share information with another person in your life and they need to find something, that's a little challenging. And in the work world, if you happen to be out sick or someone needs to find something in your office. I mean, that's what the importance of this is that like thinking about could other people easily find this. If you only have to, I mean, if the system is not broke, don't try to fix it. Like if it really works for you, but that's something to consider in terms of that other people might need to find that information. Okay, what's the next question? Okay, is that a bigger problem or an easier thing for a lot of people? Did most people, is that harder to find things on your computer? Yeah, most people, right. That's generally search is that's why this getting more things in an electronic format can really help you in terms of finding what you need, and you don't have to deal with that paper shuffling. So that would be my response to that. Okay, that's mostly related to your personal information and why it's important to have, the stuff that you need. So if you have some system around your, especially your financial paperwork, so that if you were notified of an audit, like you'd know you have what you need and that you're keeping the financial information that you need. Okay, can someone else read the next one? I don't know. Okay, that's just mostly around what is the physical environment of your office. Because a lot of people, they sort of carve out a home office wherever they can, and if that's the only choice that you have to make, but don't devalue that space. We need to do a lot of things around the management of business of life, and you need a place to process your paperwork and to get done what you need. I worked with a woman recently where she just was like scattered all the time. She had 3 kids, she was working part-time, and like nothing was getting done in her life. Like bills were being paid late, things were getting lost, important things, legal things, passports, all of that kind of stuff. Because she had no place for her. Her kids had a place, they had a playroom and a bedroom, they had a place to sleep, but she didn't even have a desk for herself. She had no place to file anything. So there's value to having some setup that allows you to be productive. Okay, the next one. Okay, that's a big one that for a lot of people, especially like we save all this information that we want to read. And that's my lowest rated question on everybody's, because most people we don't make the time. So my answer to that is that if there's stuff that you really want to read, like articles you've been collecting or books that you want to learn from and things like that, you either take on a slower time at work at the end of the workday that you say on Friday afternoons I'm going to spend an hour reading these articles that I've saved, or like 10 minutes a day at the end of the day. There is no like magic answer that's going to make you all of a sudden take your reading pile and be like, oh, I'm going to read this. So having carved out time. The other thing I would tell you for the reading materials is put them where you're going to actually read them. So if you read in bed, put them on your nightstand. If you read in the bathroom, put them in your bathroom. Where are you going to do your reading? So those are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you get to some of this thing. And if the other thing that I would tell you is have a defined amount of reading. So you can say, I'm going to have a magazine holder that only holds this much information, and that's as much as I can save. If I can't fit another thing in there, I got to get rid of something. I'm never going to read all this stuff. So really limiting the quantity of the amount that you're going to read. Can you read the next question? Okay, so I talked a little bit about like what you need to keep and what you don't. So if you are one of those people with those 4-drawer file cabinets and have a lot of information, and those cabinets take up space, and you just, in most likelihood, don't need them anymore. So come up with the time, a slower time, end of the year, right after you've finished your taxes. Like that's a great time to sort of get rid of all those old papers and things like that.
It's very easy for me to manage interruptions and prioritize my work.
Okay, so that's more addressing the work world. We live in a world where people feel that it's just okay to just drop by your office or drop by your cubicle when you're working. So there's things that you can do to manage those interruptions of like having set times where you'll set up times with people of when you're going to talk to them, or responding to them with things like, rather than just engaging them, say, I really would love to talk to you, but can we schedule a meeting? I mean, you've got interruptions really kill your productivity, and it is really in this world with text messaging and the availability that we have to get a hold of people, it really can destroy productivity. So any kind of things that you can do to limit your interruptions is going to make you much more focused and much more productive. Does everyone have any things that they really try to do when they're trying to do something focused that helps them, keeps them from getting interrupted? Yes?
I don't know if anyone has a problem with interrupting themselves. There's an app called Self Control. You can block various websites for a certain amount of time, and you really cannot even hack it. Even if you're a computer programmer, it'd be really hard to bypass it. So that's good.
So that means if you're on your computer, she's talking that blocks all those sites like social media and all of the other things that you would go on when you'd get distracted. Yeah, I'll just be on this for a minute, and then all of a sudden an hour goes by and you're on something else. Okay, I sort of talked about, I think you guys have a pretty good handle, or hopefully got some good tips from the things that we talked about today. But you really, like, using your calendar in conjunction with your to-do list is really something that those need to be looked at together and not as separate entities and not as just ad hoc. That's what I would basically say to that, to follow up on what I just presented.
I have a system for managing projects and work in progress.
Okay, so for project management, that's sort of like, again, about having your task list. And for certain projects that have multiple steps to them, having a good system in place. Like, so for example, in Evernote, you can set up a note around a particular project and list out the steps that you need to take. And then when you're scanning your to-dos or whatever, you're taking the very next action that you need to move that project forward and making sure it's on your task list to keep moving that forward. So for example, this isn't really a project, but anything that's basically takes you more than 2 steps is really defined as a project. But a client I was working with the other day, like, she had this invitation sitting down, and I was like, for some event, and I was like, okay, well, you just need to respond to it. And she's like, no, I need to first email my friend to see if she's going. So I'm like, well, that's what you need to put on your task list. It's not respond to the event, it's email so-and-so to ask her if she's going. So when you're looking at your projects, you really need to break them down into what is the very next thing I need to do to move this thing forward. So you don't, because when you look at it as a big whole project, it seems really overwhelming. Okay, what number are we on? Okay, go ahead.
I'm rarely overwhelmed by what I need or want to do.
So that's just really about planning. We feel scattered when we have all these things swimming in our head and we don't have a system for capturing all the things that we need to do. So as much as you can, like I said, get things out of your head and into some kind of system that you can then look at your time and plan ahead, it's going to make you feel less overwhelmed. Can I get someone to read the next one? Okay, so that's, again, back to me talking about having one contact management system that you can have all your pieces in place and have a place to go to find the people that are important to you. And the next one, I think, is this the last question?
No, number 12.
Okay, sorry. Okay, that's just about, again, setting the environment, not a lot of clutter, where you feel good. Clutter is really distracting, whether it's electronic clutter or physical clutter. So when you come into your office, you want to make it a place that you actually enjoy being. And I'm not saying that you should be there all the time. There's lots of options now where you can work in different places. But make it a place that you want to be, a place that you want to return to. So doing things like every night when you leave your office, that you're making it a space that you want to return to by cleaning up the piles and sort of having a plan in place for the very next day. Okay, I'll go back over here. Do you mind reading the last one?
I'm confident others can find what they need if I am not here.
Okay, and I addressed that with your question. Okay, and then I thought there's only 13. I'm sorry, my apologies. Go ahead. So this is looking at the big picture, like, of how your office relates to who you want to be. So especially if you're looking at a change right now in your career and who you want to be, sometimes just clearing out your spaces will help you to understand who you want to be. You might find when you're doing that, a book on something, oh wow, I really used to have a really big interest in this. And so maybe that's something I might be interested in pursuing in my career. Getting your office to reflect who you are at that particular moment, not who you were 10 years ago. I've been in offices where they have stuff from their MBA program that was 10 or 15 years ago and has absolutely no reflection on anything that they're doing right now. And so it doesn't relate to their life now. Okay, so that's just about that scattered feeling. What does it look like in terms of how you're managing your time? What does your daily life look like? And can you make it so that you're not feeling so overwhelmed and scattered all the time? And are there certain tools and things that and behaviors you can adopt to feel less overwhelmed? So you're welcome to turn those back into me, and we can discuss more specific things we can do for, I can help you to do for yourself or do alongside you if you're interested. You can also find this productive environment scorecard on my website, and it will come to me electronically if you're interested in a consultation. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? Yes? Well, the one thing is that it's not, I mean, out of the box, it's not, I mean, Things is very specifically a to-do and project management tool. So it has a lot of the features just readily there. If you want, Evernote has all that, but it's just, you sort of have to massage it a little bit to get it to work for you. If that, like, I use a to-do program in conjunction with Evernote. I primarily use Evernote as my information place. It's not where I necessarily keep my to-dos per se. But it just, a lot of people do. So it just depends on how you can get things to work for you. I usually use Wunderlist. That is something that I use a lot of. But what I tend to do is I do keep it in list form, like in Evernote as just a list. And then what I do is I really use my Google Calendar. I look at, my time is sort of set. Like I know that I'm seeing clients from this time to this time. So I can say, okay, what are the few things that I'm going to get done this week? And I just slot them into the all-day event field of my Google Calendar. That's how I do my process, is a conjunction of just having this list, scanning it, and what are the things that I need to get done that day. But that doesn't work for everybody. And it doesn't work for a lot of my clients. It's just, it happens to work for me. I look through it and say, like, oh, like, yes, not scanning it. Sorry. Scanning, sorry. I'm going to take that question, yes. There's lots of project management software. And there's lots of them out there. In terms of the work world, I mean, you guys would know more in the corporate world what people are using. On a personal level, I just think it's about breaking down the steps. And a lot of these to-do apps, you can take a particular project and put it down into actionable steps. But I don't have one that I'd specifically recommend over another. Okay, I think we're good. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and your interaction. I appreciate it.